The morning sun of Altair Prime cast long shadows through the glass dome of the Galactic University. Inside classroom 47B, 43 students from 12 different worlds sat waiting. Their teacher, Professor Veltar, was late. This never happened. Cree shifted in her seat, her blue scales catching the light. She was from Zentora, a world where her people had stopped fighting wars 3,000 years ago. Next to her sat Tor, whose crystal body hummed softly with energy. His people from the Helix system had never even had wars to begin with. "Where is the old tentacle?" whispered Nyx, a small furry creature from the ice moons of Vega. "He's always here before us." The door finally opened. Professor Veltar entered slowly, his 4 tentacles moving in the pattern his people used when they were thinking hard about something difficult. His large black eyes looked tired. "Sorry, students," he said, his voice translator making the words sound flat. "Today we discuss something complicated." The holographic display in the center of the room came to life. It showed a map of the galaxy with thousands of colored dots. Each dot was a different species. Green dots meant they were part of the Galactic Confederation. Yellow dots meant they were being considered for membership. Red dots meant they were banned. Most students had never seen a red dot before. "Today," Professor Veltar said quietly, "we talk about the Human Exclusion Protocol." A wave of excitement went through the class. Everyone had heard stories about humans, but they were just stories. Scary tales parents told their children to make them behave. "Professor," said Cree, raising her clawed hand, "humans are real? Very real." Veltar replied. "They live in a system called Sol, about 40 light-years from here. They are the only intelligent species banned from joining our confederation." Tor's crystal body glowed brighter with amusement. "Banned? What did they do? Try to eat someone?" The class laughed. Everyone knew the stories. Humans were supposed to be savage creatures who fought with metal sticks and ate the flesh of dead animals. They were said to be so violent that they fought wars over the color of their skin or which invisible god they believed in. "I heard," said Nyx, his voice high with excitement, "that they still use chemical explosives. Can you imagine? Not even energy weapons." "My father told me," added Jex, a tall, thin being from Rigel, "that humans actually touch their enemies when they fight. With their actual bodies. How gross." The laughter grew louder. These students came from civilized worlds. When their people had disagreements, they used mind melding or computer mediation. Physical violence was something from the ancient past, like using fire to cook food or traveling slower than light. Professor Veltar watched his students laugh and joke. His tentacles moved in the pattern that meant deep sadness, but none of the students noticed. "They're probably too stupid to use real weapons," said Cree. "I bet they hit things with rocks." "Do they even have space travel?" asked Tor. "Or do they just throw rocks at the stars?" Professor Veltar's large eyes grew darker. "They have space travel," he said quietly. "They've had it for over 300 years. This made the students laugh even harder. 300 years and still not allowed to join us, said Nyx. "They must be really terrible. I heard," said a new voice from the back, "that they fight wars over tiny pieces of land, sometimes just a few miles. And they make their own children fight in these wars," added another student. "They probably smell bad too," said Jex. "All that violence must make them stink." The classroom was now full of laughter and chatter. Each student tried to tell a worse story about humans than the last. They talked about human savagery and primitive thinking. They made jokes about humans being too stupid to understand peace. Professor Veltar stood at the front of the room watching. His people were very old and very wise. They had seen many things in their long lives. But these young students had grown up in a peaceful galaxy. They had never seen real war. They had never seen what happened when civilization was threatened. "Professor," called out Cree, "why do we even study them? They sound like animals." "Yeah," agreed Tor. "Why waste time on such primitive creatures?" "Maybe," said Nyx with a grin. "We should send them some books about how to be civilized." The laughter reached new heights. Some students were now making jokes about sending humans to school to learn how to be proper people. Others suggested that humans should be kept in zoos for other species to look at. I have an idea, said Cree, standing up. Let's make a petition. We should ask the university why they make us learn about such backward creatures. Yes, shouted several students at once. We could send it to the Confederation Council too, added Tor. Ask them to stop wasting time monitoring humans. Professor Veltar raised one tentacle for silence, but the students were too excited to notice. Humans, with their metal sticks and chemical bombs, laughed Jex. What's the worst they could do, throw rocks really hard? I bet one of our peacekeeper ships could stop their whole planet, said another student. Their whole system, probably, added a third. Professor Veltar's tentacles began moving faster. His people did this when they were getting angry or upset. But the students were having too much fun to pay attention to their teacher. We should make a list, said Cree, of all the reasons humans are too primitive for the Confederation. Reason 1, called out Tor, they still fight with their hands. Reason 2, added Nyx, they make loud noises when they're angry. Reason 3, they eat dead animals. Reason 4, they have wars over imaginary friends. The list went on, and on. Each reason made the students laugh harder. They were having the best class of the semester, making fun of the savage humans who were too stupid and violent to join civilized society. Professor Veltar finally slammed one tentacle on his desk. The sound was loud enough to make everyone stop talking. Enough, he said, his voice quiet but firm. The students looked at their teacher with surprise. Professor Veltar never raised his voice. He never showed anger. He was always calm and patient, even when students gave wrong answers or didn't do their homework. You think you understand humans, he said slowly. You think you know why they are banned from our Confederation. He moved to the holographic display and touched a control. The image changed to show official documents with important-looking seals. You believe they are banned because they are too primitive, too violent, too savage for civilized society. The students nodded. This was exactly what they believed. Professor Veltar's eyes seemed to glow in the dim light of the classroom. You are wrong, he said quietly. Completely, terribly wrong. The room became very quiet. Something in their teacher's voice made the students nervous. Would you like to know? Professor Veltar asked. The real reason humans are banned from the Galactic Confederation? The students looked at each other uncertainly. Suddenly, making jokes about humans didn't seem as funny as it had a moment ago. Yes, Professor, Cree said quietly. We would like to know. The silence in classroom 47B lasted only a few seconds. Then Cree started laughing again. Come on, Professor, she said, her blue scales shimmering with amusement. What could be worse than being too violent? Did humans try to eat the Confederation? Council? The other students joined in the laughter. They thought their teacher was making a joke. After all, what could be worse than being savage and primitive? Professor Veltar's tentacles stopped moving. This was a very bad sign. When his people went completely still, it meant they were either very angry or very scared. You think this is funny? He said quietly. Well, yes, said Tor, his crystal body still glowing with humor. I mean, what's the worst thing humans could do? Throw rocks at starships? Maybe they're too smelly, suggested Nyx. Maybe the council banned them because they don't wash. The laughter grew louder. More students joined in with their own jokes. Maybe they're too stupid to understand the membership forms, called out Jex. Maybe they eat with their hands, added another student. Maybe they sleep on the ground like animals. Professor Veltar watched his students make fun of humans for several more minutes. Then he walked to his desk and sat down heavily. His tentacles moved to touch a communication device. What are you doing, Professor? Asked Cree. I am sending a message to the Confederation archives, he replied. I am requesting access to classified files. The students looked at each other with confusion. Classified files? What did that have to do with primitive humans? Professor, said Tor carefully. What kind of classified files? The files that explain why humans are really banned, Veltar answered. The files that show what happened the last time humans helped the Confederation. Helped, Nyx squeaked. Humans help the Confederation when? You will see, the professor said. But first you must understand something. What you are about to learn is not a joke. It is not funny. It is the most serious thing you will ever study in this university. The students were quiet now. Something in their teacher's voice made them nervous. Professor Veltar had taught at the university for over 50 years. He had never spoken to them like this before. Sir, said Cree slowly, are you saying humans are not banned for being violent? I am saying, Professor Veltar replied, that you do not understand what human violence really means. The door to the classroom opened. A small robot rolled in, carrying a sealed container. The robot's red lights blinked as it approached the professor's desk. Ah, said Veltar. The files are here. He took the container from the robot and entered a long code into its lock. The container opened with a soft hiss, revealing several data crystals inside. These files, he explained, have been sealed for over 200 years. They contain records from the Third Galactic War. The Third Galactic War? Repeated Jex. But that was before most of our species even had space travel. Yes, agreed the professor. It was a very long time ago, but humans were there. He picked up one of the data crystals and inserted it into the classroom's holographic display. The crystal glowed and text appeared in the air above the students' heads. Warning, the text read. Classified material. Galactic Confederation eyes only. Psychological evaluation required before viewing. Professor, said Tor nervously, maybe we shouldn't. Too late, Veltar interrupted. You wanted to know about humans. You made jokes about their primitiveness. Now you will learn the truth. The warning text disappeared, replaced by a simple menu. Professor Veltar's tentacle hovered over the selection marked Battle Records, Void Collective War. The Void Collective, he explained, was a species that tried to destroy all life in the galaxy. They were parasites. They would land on a planet, take over the minds of everyone living there, and turn them into soldiers for their army. The students shifted uncomfortably in their seats. They had heard stories about the Void Collective in history class, but only basic facts. Most of their teachers said it was too disturbing to discuss in detail. The collective had already destroyed 47 civilizations. Veltar continued. They were heading toward the core worlds where most of our species lived. Our military experts said we had maybe 2 years before they reached us. But the Confederation stopped them, right? Asked Cree. That's why we're all here today? The Confederation tried, the professor said. We sent our best fleets. We used our most advanced weapons. We threw everything we had at the Void Collective. He paused, his large black eyes looking at each student in turn. We lost, he said simply. We lost badly. More than half our ships were destroyed. The collective kept coming. They were too strong, too fast, too smart. The classroom was completely quiet now. Even the soft humming of the building's air system seemed too loud. That's when someone suggested, asking the humans for help. Veltar continued. Humans? Nix laughed, but it sounded forced. What could humans do that the whole Confederation couldn't? That, said Professor Veltar, is exactly what the Confederation Council asked. He touched another control, and a new image appeared. It showed a large meeting room filled with representatives from dozens of species. At the front of the room stood a small figure that looked different from all the others. This recording is from the emergency session of the Confederation Council, Veltar explained. The human ambassador had just arrived. The students leaned forward to get a better look at the human. It was smaller than most of the other species in the room, with pale skin and dark hair. It wore a simple uniform with no decorations or signs of rank. The human doesn't look very impressive, observed Tor. No, agreed the professor. He doesn't. His name was Commander Davis. He represented a species that had just learned to travel between stars. His people had no energy weapons, no shield technology, no gravity manipulation, just chemical rockets and metal tools. So what did he want? Asked Jex. He wanted to help, Veltar replied. He said his government was willing to assist the Confederation in fighting the Void Collective. The students looked at each other with confusion. How could such a primitive species help the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy? What did the council say? Asked Kree. Professor Veltar's tentacles moved in the pattern that meant bitter amusement. They laughed, he said. Just like you did earlier. They thought it was a joke. Some of them suggested that humans should go home and hide under their beds while the real warriors fought the war. The professor paused the recording and looked directly at his students. The human ambassador listened to all the laughter, he said quietly. He waited until the room was quiet. Then he said something that changed everything. What did he say? Whispered Nyx. He said, "We understand you think we're too primitive to help. But we're not offering to fight your way. We're offering to fight our way." The students sat in confused silence. What did that mean? The council didn't understand either. Veltar continued. They asked him what the human way meant. The ambassador looked around the room at all the different species. Then he said something that made everyone stop laughing. Professor, Veltar's voice became very quiet. He said, "We're offering to do what you can't. We're offering to pay the price you won't pay. We're offering to win." The professor stood up and walked to the front of the classroom. "Tomorrow," he said, "I will show you exactly what the human ambassador meant. I will show you what humans did to save the Confederation. I will show you why they are banned from joining us." He began putting the data crystals back into their container. "Professor," said Kree urgently, "you can't stop there. What happened next?" "What happened next," Veltar replied, "is why these files have been classified for 200 years. What happened next is why the Confederation Council voted to keep humans away from the rest of the galaxy." He sealed the container and handed it back to the robot. "What happened next," he said as the robot left the room, "is something you are not ready to see. But you will see it tomorrow. And after you do, you will never make jokes about humans again." The class bell rang, signaling the end of the period. Students began gathering their things, but they moved slowly, their minds full of questions. "Professor," called out Tor as he reached the door, "are humans really that dangerous?" Professor Veltar was quiet for a long moment. "Child," he finally replied, "humans are not dangerous because they want to hurt you. Humans are dangerous because they are willing to hurt themselves to save you. And that is the most terrifying thing in the universe." The next morning, classroom 47B was packed. Word had spread about Professor Veltar's mysterious classified files. Students who didn't even take his class had crowded in to see what would happen. Kree arrived early and sat in the front row. She had barely slept the night before, thinking about what the professor had said. Humans are willing to hurt themselves to save you. What did that mean? Tor and Nyx sat beside her, both looking nervous. Even Jex, who usually made jokes about everything, was quiet today. Professor Veltar entered the room carrying the sealed container. His tentacles moved slowly, like he was carrying something very heavy. His large black eyes looked tired, as if he had not slept either. "Before we begin," he said quietly, "I want to make something clear. What you are about to see happened over 200 years ago. But it is real. Every image, every recording, every report is real." He placed the container on his desk and opened it carefully. The Confederation Council met for 3 days after Commander Davis made his offer. Veltar continued. Most members wanted to refuse. They said humans were too primitive to help with anything important. The professor inserted a data crystal into the holographic display. A 3-dimensional image appeared in the center of the room. It showed a star map with red dots moving across it like a disease. "This is how the Void Collective spread," he explained. "Each red dot is a solar system under their control. Watch how fast they moved." The students watched in horror as the red dots multiplied. In just a few months, dozens of systems turned red. Each dot represented billions of dead or enslaved people. Our military leaders said we needed at least 5 years to build enough ships to stop them, Veltar said. We had maybe 18 months before they reached the core worlds. The image changed to show a massive space battle. Confederation ships fired bright energy beams at dark, twisted vessels that looked like they were made of living tissue. This was the Battle of Rigel 7, the professor explained. Our largest fleet met the collective's advance force. We lost 60% of our ships in 4 hours. Kree watched a Confederation battleship explode in silent fire. The ship was bigger than the entire city where she grew up. Inside it, thousands of beings like her had died in seconds. After Rigel 7, the Council finally voted to accept human help, Veltar continued. They were desperate. They would try anything. The image changed again. Now it showed the same meeting room from yesterday, but this time Commander Davis was standing at the front, speaking to the assembled aliens. The humans asked for 3 things, the professor said. First, they wanted complete tactical information about the Void Collective. Second, they wanted access to our medical databases. Third, they wanted us to promise not to interfere with their methods. What did they mean by methods? Asked Tor nervously. You will see, Veltar replied. The recording showed Commander Davis pointing to a star chart. His voice was calm and steady, like he was discussing the weather instead of planning a war. Human. Reinforcements will arrive in the Kepler sector within 6 weeks, the recording said. We will need detailed scans of Void Collective bioships and samples of their parasitic organisms. One of the council members, a tall being with purple skin, leaned forward. Commander Davis, how many ships is your government sending? 57. Vessels, the human replied. The council chamber erupted in shocked whispers. 57 ships? The Confederation had just lost over 300 ships at Rigel 7, and the humans thought 57 would make a difference? Commander, said another council member, with respect, 57 ships cannot succeed where 300 failed. Commander Davis looked directly at the speaker. His expression was calm, but something in his eyes made several council members uncomfortable. Counselor, he said quietly, our ships are different. Different how? The counselor asked. They are crewed by volunteers, Davis replied. Every single person on every single ship volunteered for this mission. They all know what it means. What does it mean? Asked the counselor. Commander Davis was quiet for a moment. When he spoke again, his voice was so soft, the recording equipment barely picked it up. It means they are not coming home. The council chamber fell completely silent. Professor Veltar paused the recording and looked at his students. Do you understand what he just said? The professor asked. The students looked at each other with confusion. Kree raised her hand. Professor, did he mean the ships might not come home? No, Veltar replied. He meant they definitely would not come home. Every human on those 57 ships knew they were going to die. But why? Asked Nix. Why would they do that? Because, the professor said sadly, that was the only way to win. He started the recording again. The image changed to show space near the Kepler sector. The Confederation's remaining ships floated in defensive positions waiting for the Void Collective's next attack. Then the human fleet arrived. The students gasped when they saw the human ships. They were small, dark, and ugly compared to the sleek Confederation vessels. They looked like metal boxes with engines attached. The human ships had no shields, Professor Veltar explained. No energy weapons, no gravity manipulators. Just thick armor, chemical rockets, and something the Confederation had never seen before. What? Asked Jex. Nuclear weapons, the professor replied. Lots of them. The recording showed the first contact between the human fleet and a Void Collective scout force. 3 of the twisted bioships approached the human formation, probably expecting easy prey. What happened next made several students cry out in shock. Instead of trying to fight at long range like Confederation ships, the human vessels accelerated, directly toward the bioships. They flew straight into the enemy formation, taking terrible damage but never stopping. When the human ships reached the bioships, they exploded. Not from enemy fire. They exploded on purpose, taking the bioships with them. They killed themselves, whispered Kree. On purpose, added Tor, his crystal body flickering with distress. The first 3 human ships destroyed 3 bioships, Professor Veltar said quietly. That was a better kill ratio than any Confederation fleet had achieved. But it was just the beginning. The recording continued. More Void Collective ships arrived, hundreds of them. The human fleet split into small groups and attacked from different directions. Every single attack was a suicide run. The students watched in horror as human ship after human ship flew directly into enemy formations and detonated. Each explosion took several bioships with it, but the cost was terrible. Why didn't they try to survive? Asked Nix, tears running down his furry face. Because survival was not the mission, Professor Veltar replied. Victory was the mission. The recording showed Commander Davis's flagship, a slightly larger vessel than the others. It was heading directly toward the largest bioship in the HFY Collective fleet. Confederation command to human fleet, came a voice over the radio. Commander Davis, you have achieved your objective. You can withdraw now. Davis's voice crackled through the static. Negative, Confederation command. Mission is not complete. Commander, you have already done more than enough. Your people have died to save ours. Please withdraw your remaining ships. There was a long pause. Then Davis spoke again, and his words would haunt the students forever. Confederation command, my people did not die to save yours. My people died to save everyone. The mission is not complete until the threat is eliminated completely. His ship accelerated toward the bioship. Just before impact, his final transmission came through. Tell the Council, humans keep their promises. The explosion was visible from 3 solar systems away. When the light faded, the entire Void Collective fleet was gone, all of it, destroyed by 57 ships that had been built to explode. The recording ended. The classroom was completely quiet except for the sound of crying students. Professor Veltar removed the data crystal and put it carefully back in its container. That, he said quietly, is why humans are banned from the Confederation. Not because they are too violent, but because they are too willing to sacrifice everything for others. The Council realized that if humans joined us, they would volunteer for every dangerous mission. They would die for every cause. They would sacrifice themselves to save people they had never even met. Kree raised a shaking hand. Professor, what happened to the other human ships? All 57 ships were destroyed, Veltar replied. All 17,000 human crew members died. They saved the galaxy and none of them lived to see it. But surely some humans survived, asked Tor hopefully. Professor Veltar's tentacles moved in the pattern that meant deep sadness. Oh yes, he said. Billions of humans survived, and that is what terrifies the Council most of all. For 3 days, no one spoke about what they had seen in Professor Veltar's class. The students walked through the university halls like ghosts, their minds filled with images of exploding human ships and Commander Davis's final words. Kree couldn't eat. Every time she tried, she remembered the 17,000 humans who had died to save her people. Tor's crystal body had lost its glow and remained dim even during the day. Nix jumped at every loud noise, as if he expected to hear the sound of ships exploding. When they returned to classroom 47B, Professor Veltar was already there. The sealed container sat on his desk, but today there were other things beside it. Photographs. Real, printed photographs scattered across the desk like fallen leaves. Sit down, the professor said quietly. Today we see what happened after the Battle of Kepler Sector. The students took their seats slowly. None of them were joking today, none of them were laughing. The destruction of the Void Collective fleet was not the end of the war, Veltar began. It was the beginning of something much worse. He picked up one of the photographs and held it up for the class to see. It showed a planet from space, but something was wrong with it. The continents were the wrong color, gray and black instead of green and blue. This is Korath Prime, he explained. Before the Void Collective arrived, it was home to 8 billion people. After the collective infected them, it became this. He passed the photograph to Kree. When she looked closely, she could see that the gray areas were not natural. They were structures, twisted organic buildings that covered the entire planet. Like a disease. The collective didn't just conquer planets, Veltar continued. They changed them. They turned every living thing into part of their hive mind. Plants, animals, people. Everything became a weapon in their army. He picked up another photograph. This one showed what looked like a person, but it was wrong. The body was too long, the arms had too many joints, and the face. Cree handed the photo to Tor without looking at it again. The infected could not be saved, the professor said sadly. The collective's parasites had changed them too much. They were no longer themselves. They were weapons that looked like the people we once knew. Nix raised a small, shaking hand. Professor, what does this have to do with humans? Veltar picked up a third photograph. This one showed a human soldier in a bulky suit standing on what looked like a battlefield. Behind him, twisted structures, burned in the distance. After the Battle of Kepler Sector, the Confederation Council thought the war was over, he explained. We had stopped the collective's fleet. We thought we had won. He passed the photograph around the class. The human soldier looked small and vulnerable compared to the alien landscape around him. But 57 ships had only destroyed the collective's mobile forces, Veltar continued. There were still 47 infected worlds, 47 planets full of billions of converted beings who would rebuild the fleet and attack again. So what happened? Asked Jex quietly. The council met for weeks, trying to decide what to do, the professor replied. Some wanted to use nuclear weapons to destroy the infected planets. Others suggested building a wall of space stations to contain them forever. He picked up another photograph. This one showed a group of humans walking through what looked like a poisoned wasteland. They were not wearing the bulky protective suits like the soldier in the previous photo. They were walking in the open, breathing the contaminated air. While, the council argued, the humans made their own decision, Veltar said. The photograph showed something that made Tor's crystal body flicker with distress. The humans in the image were clearly sick. Their skin was pale and marked with dark spots. Their hair was falling out, but they were still walking, still carrying weapons, still moving forward. The humans volunteered to land on the infected worlds, the professor explained. They went down to the surfaces of planets where no other species could survive. They breathed poisoned air and drank contaminated water. They fought the infected face to face, with their primitive weapons and their bare hands. Cree stared at the photograph in horror. But Professor, if the planets were poisoned, how did they survive? They didn't, Veltar replied simply. He spread more photographs across his desk. Each one showed the same thing. Humans fighting on different worlds, getting sicker and sicker but never stopping. The humans knew the contamination would kill them, he continued. They knew that landing on those planets meant death, but they also knew that someone had to do it. One photograph showed a human woman carrying a small device toward a large twisted building. Half her face was covered with the black marks of poison, but she was still walking. This is Commander Lisa Park, Veltar said, pointing to the woman. She led the assault on Korath Prime. She and her team carried nuclear charges into the heart of the collective's breeding centers. Did she succeed? Whispered Nix. Yes, the professor replied. She and her team destroyed the breeding centers. They saved 8 billion infected people from a fate worse than death. Commander Park died 17 minutes after completing her mission. The students passed the photographs around in stunned silence. Each image showed the same story. Humans walking into certain death to save people they had never met. But surely some of them survived, asked Tor hopefully. Professor Veltar picked up a thick folder and opened it. Inside were page after page of names, written in simple human letters. These are the casualties from the 47 Worlds campaign, he said. 2,300,047 humans. All volunteers, all dead. He let the folder fall open, and the papers scattered across his desk. Each page was covered with names. Thousands and thousands of names. They cleaned every infected world, the professor continued. They walked through poison and radiation and biological weapons that would kill any of us in seconds. They fought monsters that had once been children and parents and teachers. They did it because no one else could. They did it because it needed to be done. Cree picked up one of the scattered pages. The names were written in neat rows, each one representing a person who had died to save the galaxy. At the bottom of the page, someone had written a note in human script. "Professor, what does this say?" she asked, pointing to the writing. Veltar looked at the note and translated. It says, "We remember them all. We honor their sacrifice. We will not let them be forgotten." "Who wrote that?" asked Jex. "The human government," the professor replied. "They keep records of every person who died in the war. They visit their families. They tell their stories. They make sure no one forgets what these people did." He picked up one final photograph. This one was different from the others. It showed a group of human children, healthy and happy, playing in a sunny field. They were laughing and running, completely unaware of the darkness their people had faced. "This photograph was taken on Earth 5 years after the war ended," Veltar explained. "These children grew up in a safe galaxy because 2 million humans died to make it safe." The professor put the photograph down gently and looked at his students. "The Confederation Council studied these records for months," he said. "They read every report, looked at every photograph, learned every detail of what humans had done." "And then?" asked Kree quietly. "And then they made the most difficult decision in Confederation history," Veltar replied. "They voted to ban humans from ever joining us." "But why?" Nix cried out. "They saved everyone. They should be heroes." Professor Veltar's tentacles moved in the pattern that meant deep, ancient sadness. "They are heroes," he agreed. "But they are heroes who will never say no. Heroes who will always volunteer for the most dangerous missions. Heroes who will sacrifice themselves for anyone, even people they have never met." He began gathering the photographs carefully, treating each one like a precious treasure. "The Council realized something terrible," he continued. "If humans joined the Confederation, they would become our soldiers. Every time there was danger, we would send humans. Every time someone needed to die to save others, we would ask humans to do it." "So?" asked Tor. "If they're willing." "That's exactly the problem," Professor Veltar interrupted. "They are willing. They are always willing, and that willingness would turn us into monsters." The room fell silent as the students began to understand. "We banned humans," the professor said quietly, "not to protect ourselves from them, but to protect them from us. Because we know that if we ever meet them again, we will use them. We will let them die for us. And they will let us do it." He closed the folder of names and put it back in the container. "Tomorrow," he said, "I will show you the most secret file of all. The file that shows what humans are doing right now in their home system, while we keep them isolated from the galaxy." The class bell rang, but no one moved. "Go," Professor Veltar said gently. "Think about what you have seen. Think about what it means. And remember, these were not stories. These were real people who died for you." The students left slowly, each carrying the weight of 2 million human lives in their hearts. For 3 days, no one spoke about what they had seen in Professor Veltar's class. The students walked through the university halls like ghosts, their minds filled with images of exploding human ships and Commander Davis's final words. Kree couldn't eat. Every time she tried, she remembered the 17,000 humans who had died to save her people. Tor's crystal body had lost its glow and remained dim even during the day. Nix jumped at every loud noise, as if he expected to hear the sound of ships exploding. When they returned to classroom 47B, Professor Veltar was already there. The sealed container sat on his desk, but today there were other things beside it. Photographs. Real, printed photographs scattered across the desk like fallen leaves. "Sit down," the professor said quietly. "Today we see what happened after the Battle of Kepler Sector." The students took their seats slowly. None of them were joking today. None of them were laughing. The destruction of the Void Collective Fleet was not the end of the war. Veltar began. It was the beginning of something much worse. He picked up one of the photographs and held it up for the class to see. It showed a planet from space, but something was wrong with it. The continents were the wrong color, gray and black instead of green and blue. "This is Korath Prime," he explained. Before the Void Collective arrived, it was home to 8 billion people. After the collective infected them, it became this. He passed the photograph to Cree. When she looked closely, she could see that the gray areas were not natural. They were structures, twisted organic buildings that covered the entire planet. Like a disease. The collective didn't just conquer planets, Veltar continued. They changed them. They turned every living thing into part of their hive mind. Plants, animals, people, everything became a weapon in their army. He picked up another photograph. This one showed what looked like a person, but it was wrong. The body was too long, the arms had too many joints, and the face. Cree handed the photo to Tor without looking at it again. The infected could not be saved, the professor said sadly. The collective's parasites had changed them too much. They were no longer themselves. They were weapons that looked like the people we once knew. Nix raised a small, shaking hand. Professor, what does this have to do with humans? Veltar picked up a third photograph. This one showed a human soldier in a bulky suit, standing on what looked like a battlefield. Behind him, twisted structures, burned in the distance. After the Battle of Kepler Sector, the Confederation Council thought the war was over, he explained. We had stopped the collective's fleet. We thought we had won. He passed the photograph around the class. The human soldier looked small and vulnerable compared to the alien landscape around him. But 57 ships had only destroyed the collective's mobile forces, Veltar continued. There were still 47 infected worlds, 47 planets full of billions of converted beings who would rebuild the fleet and attack again. So what happened? Asked Jex quietly. The council met for weeks, trying to decide what to do. The professor replied. Some wanted to use nuclear weapons to destroy the infected planets. Others suggested building a wall of space stations to contain them forever. He picked up another photograph. This one showed a group of humans walking through what looked like a poisoned wasteland. They were not wearing the bulky protective suits like the soldier in the previous photo. They were walking in the open, breathing the contaminated air. While, the council argued, the humans made their own decision, Veltar said. The photograph showed something that made Tor's crystal body flicker with distress. The humans in the image were clearly sick. Their skin was pale and marked with dark spots, their hair was falling out. But they were still walking, still carrying weapons, still moving forward. The humans volunteered to land on the infected worlds, the professor explained. They went down to the surfaces of planets where no other species could survive. They breathed poisoned air and drank contaminated water. They fought the infected face to face, with their primitive weapons and their bare hands. Cree stared at the photograph in horror. But Professor, if the planets were poisoned, how did they survive? They didn't, Veltar replied simply. He spread more photographs across his desk. Each one showed the same thing. Humans fighting on different worlds, getting sicker and sicker but never stopping. The humans knew the contamination would kill them, he continued. They knew that landing on those planets meant death. But they also knew that someone had to do it. One photograph showed a human woman carrying a small device toward a large, twisted building. Half her face was covered with the black marks of poison, but she was still walking. This is Commander Lisa Park, Veltar said, pointing to the woman. She led the assault on Korath Prime. She and her team carried nuclear charges into the heart of the collective's breeding centers. Did she succeed? Whispered Nix. Yes, the professor replied. She and her team destroyed the breeding centers. They saved 8 billion infected people from a fate worse than death. Commander Park died 17 minutes after completing her mission. The students passed the photographs around in stunned silence. Each image showed the same story. Humans walking into certain death to save people they had never met. But surely some of them survived, asked Tor hopefully. Professor Veltar picked up a thick folder and opened it. Inside were page after page of names written in simple human letters. These are the casualties from the 47 Worlds campaign, he said. 2,300,047 humans, all volunteers, all dead. He let the folder fall open, and the papers scattered across his desk. Each page was covered with names, thousands and thousands of names. They cleaned every infected world, the professor continued. They walked through poison and radiation and biological weapons that would kill any of us in seconds. They fought monsters that had once been children and parents and teachers. They did it because no one else could. They did it because it needed to be done. Cree picked up one of the scattered pages. The names were written in neat rows, each one representing a person who had died to save the galaxy. At the bottom of the page, someone had written a note in human script. "Professor, what does this say?" she asked, pointing to the writing. Veltar looked at the note and translated. It says, "We remember them all. We honor their sacrifice. We will not let them be forgotten." "Who wrote that?" asked Jex. "The human government," the professor replied. "They keep records of every person who died in the war. They visit their families. They tell their stories. They make sure no one forgets what these people did." He picked up one final photograph. This one was different from the others. It showed a group of human children, healthy and happy, playing in a sunny field. They were laughing and running, completely unaware of the darkness their people had faced. This photograph was taken on Earth 5 years after the war ended, Veltar explained. These children grew up in a safe galaxy because 2 million humans died to make it safe. The professor put the photograph down gently and looked at his students. "The Confederation Council studied these records for months," he said. "They read every report, looked at every photograph, learned every detail of what humans had done." "And then?" asked Cree quietly. "And then they made the most difficult decision in Confederation history," Veltar replied. "They voted to ban humans from ever joining us." "But why?" Nix cried out. "They saved everyone. They should be heroes." Professor Veltar's tentacles moved in the pattern that meant deep, ancient sadness. "They are heroes," he agreed. "But they are heroes who will never say no. Heroes who will always volunteer for the most dangerous missions. Heroes who will sacrifice themselves for anyone, even people they have never met." He began gathering the photographs carefully, treating each one like a precious treasure. "The Council realized something terrible," he continued. "If humans joined the Confederation, they would become our soldiers. Every time there was danger, we would send humans. Every time someone needed to die to save others, we would ask humans to do it." "So?" asked Tor. "If they're willing." "That's exactly the problem," Professor Veltar interrupted. "They are willing. They are always willing. And that willingness would turn us into monsters." The room fell silent as the students began to understand. "We banned humans," the professor said quietly, "not to protect ourselves from them, but to protect them from us. Because we know that if we ever meet them again, we will use them. We will let them die for us. And they will let us do it." He closed the folder of names and put it back in the container. "Tomorrow," he said, "I will show you the most secret file of all. The file that shows what humans are doing right now in their home system, while we keep them isolated from the galaxy." The class bell rang, but no one moved. "Go," Professor Veltar said gently. "Think about what you have seen. Think about what it means. And remember, these were not stories. These were real people who died for you." The students left slowly, each carrying the weight of 2 million human lives in their hearts. The alarm screamed through the bridge of the human ship Terra Nova. Captain Rivers jumped from his chair and rushed to the main screen. Red warning lights flashed everywhere. "What's happening?" Rivers asked his crew. "Sir, we're getting a distress signal from Nexus 7 trading station," said Officer Blake from her seat. Her face looked worried. The signal just stopped. Rivers felt his stomach drop. Nexus 7 was a peaceful place where many alien races came to trade. Thousands of beings lived there. "If something bad happened..." "How far are we?" Rivers asked. 2 hours at full speed," Blake replied. "Do it. Get us there now." The Terra Nova flew through space as fast as it could. Rivers walked around the bridge feeling nervous. His crew worked quietly. Everyone knew something terrible might be waiting for them. When they reached Nexus 7, Rivers saw the worst thing in his life. The huge trading station floated in space, but it was completely dark. No lights, no movement, nothing. Life signs? Rivers asked quietly. Blake checked her computers. She shook her head. Nothing, sir. The station is empty. Rivers closed his eyes for a moment. Then he opened them and became the captain his crew needed. We're going in. Full security team. Everyone stays together, no one goes alone. Chief Torres led the security team. He was a big man with kind eyes, but he could fight when needed. Dr. Vale came too. She studied alien life and could help understand what happened. They entered the station through the main dock. Their boots made loud sounds in the empty halls. Emergency lights gave everything a red color. It looked like a nightmare. My God, whispered Dr. Vale. Bodies lay everywhere. But these weren't humans. They were aliens from many different worlds. Rivers saw a tall Villani trader near a shop. The Villani people were peaceful and looked like thin blue humans with long arms. This one had been shot in the chest. Further down, 3 Rothek lay dead, near their crystal display. The Rothek were rock-like beings who never hurt anyone. They only wanted to sell their beautiful stones. Captain, Torres called. His voice sounded strange. You need to see this. Rivers walked over. Torres pointed at the wall. There were small holes in the metal. The holes were made by weapons, but they were very low on the wall. These shots came from someone short, Torres said. Really short. Like a child. Rivers felt cold. Show me more. They walked through the station, the same thing everywhere. Dead aliens, but no humans. And all the weapon marks were low, like they came from small people. Dr. Vale studied the bodies. Captain, look at this, she said. She pointed to a dead Mokari. The Mokari looked like big, gentle bears with soft fur. This cut is perfect. Very clean. Whoever did this knew exactly where to hit. These aren't random attacks, Torres said. Someone trained to kill did this. They reached the security office. Torres worked on the computers until the screens came alive. Got it, he said. Security cameras are still working. Rivers watched the screen. At first, everything looked normal. Aliens walking around, buying things, talking. Children playing in the open areas. Then the attack started. Small figures ran into the station. They wore dark clothes and carried weapons. But Rivers couldn't believe what he saw. The attackers were tiny. They looked like children, but they moved like soldiers. They spread out in teams. They knew exactly what to do. Pause it, Rivers said. Torres stopped the video. Rivers looked closely at one attacker. It was small, maybe 4 feet tall. Its face looked young, but its eyes were cold and empty. Play it, Rivers said. The attack was horrible, but organized. The small figures shot every alien they saw. They didn't take anything. They didn't seem angry. They just killed, one by one, like it was a job. The worst part was how the aliens reacted. Many tried to help the attackers. The gentle Mokari saw small beings and thought they were lost children. They bent down to help. That's when the killing happened. Stop, Rivers said. He felt sick. I've seen enough. Dr. Vale touched his arm. Captain, there's something else. Look at their weapons. She pointed to the screen. The small attackers carried guns that looked very advanced. Too advanced for beings who seemed so primitive. Those weapons are better than ours, Torres said. Way better. Rivers nodded. Someone gave them those guns. Someone trained them. They spent more time on the station. They found over 3,000 dead aliens. Men, women, old ones, young ones. All killed by the small attackers. But they found no human bodies. And no bodies of the attackers either. Back on the ship, Rivers called his officers together. What we saw today changes everything, he said. Someone is using small beings, maybe children, as weapons. They're sending them to kill peaceful aliens. But why? Asked Blake. Dr. Vale spoke up. I've been studying the attack patterns. These small ones, they only killed aliens. They avoided any humans on the station, like they were told to. You think they're working for humans? Torres asked. No, Dr. Vale said. I think they're working for someone who wants aliens dead. But they don't want to fight humans. Rivers thought about this. Or maybe they're afraid of humans. Either way, Torres said, we need to find out who's doing this. Rivers looked at his crew. Good people, brave people. But what they faced was something new and horrible. Send a message to command, Rivers told Blake. Tell them we need more ships, and tell them. He paused. Tell them someone is using children to commit genocide. As the Terra Nova flew away from the dead station, Rivers stood at his window. He looked at the stars and thought about the small attackers. Somewhere out there, more of those small beings were being sent to kill. Innocent aliens were dying because they couldn't fight children, even children with guns. Rivers made a promise, to himself. He would find who was doing this. He would stop them. But first he had to understand something that hurt his heart to think about. How do you fight an enemy that looks like children? How do you save the innocent when the killers are innocent too? Rivers didn't know the answers yet, but he knew one thing. Humans would have to be the ones to find out, because nobody else could do what needed to be done. The stars ahead looked cold and endless, but Rivers felt something warm inside. Determination. Someone had to protect the peaceful aliens of the galaxy. Today, Rivers decided that someone would be humanity. 3 days after Nexus 7, Admiral Kane called an emergency meeting. His face looked tired and angry on the video screen. Captain Rivers, Kane said, we have a big problem. Really big. Rivers sat in his chair on the bridge. His whole crew listened. Sir? Rivers asked. 2 more stations attacked, same pattern. Small attackers, all aliens dead. No humans touched. Rivers felt his heart sink. How many dead? 8,000 on mining station Beta 4, 5,000 on research post Gamma. All peaceful places, all innocent people. Dr. Vale leaned forward. Admiral, did you find any clues about who these attackers are? Kane nodded. We're sending you coordinates. You're the closest ship. Go look at Beta 4. Find answers. The screen went dark. Rivers looked at his crew. Everyone looked scared. Blake, set course for Beta 4, Rivers said. Full speed. Yes, sir, Blake replied. During the trip, Rivers couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about the small attackers. Who were they? Why did they only kill aliens? When they reached Beta 4, it was the same horror as Nexus 7. Dark station. No life. Bodies. Everywhere. But this time, Torres found something new. Captain, look at this, Torres said. He was in the station's computer room. I found a security alert from before the attack. Rivers walked over. On the screen was a message. Warning. Small craft approaching. Unknown design. Do not respond to hails. Play the security video, Rivers said. The video showed small ships coming to the station. They looked strange. Not like any human ships or alien ships Rivers knew. The ships opened. Small figures came out. Just like at Nexus 7, but this time Rivers saw something important. Pause it, he said. Look at their necks. Torres zoomed in. Each small attacker wore a metal collar around their neck. Control collars, Dr. Vale whispered. Someone is controlling them. Rivers felt sick. Keep playing. The attack was the same. Quick. Organized. Deadly. The small figures killed every alien they found. But when they saw 2 human miners, they walked right past them. After the video ended, Rivers called his team together. These aren't just random killers, he said. Someone is controlling them, training them, sending them to kill aliens. Lieutenant Beck raised his hand. Beck was young, but smart. Captain, I've been thinking, what if these small ones aren't doing this by choice? What do you mean? Rivers asked. The collars, the way they move, like soldiers, but also like they're being forced. Dr. Vale nodded. Beck might be right. I've been studying the attack videos. These small beings, they don't act like they want to kill. They act like they have to. Torres crossed his arms. So, someone is making them do this? Maybe, Rivers said. But who and why? They spent more time searching Beta 4. In the medical bay, Dr. Vale found blood samples from the attackers. I need to study these, she said. Maybe I can learn what species they are. Back on the ship, Dr. Vale worked for hours. Finally, she called Rivers to her lab. "Captain, you need to see this," she said. Her voice sounded strange. Rivers entered the lab. Dr. Vale stood next to her computer screen. "I analyzed the blood," she said. "These attackers, they're not adults." "What do you mean?" "I mean they're children. Real children. Maybe 12 or 13, years old by human standards." Rivers felt the world spin around him. "Children?" "Yes. But there's more. Look at this." She pointed to the screen. "Their blood has been changed. Modified. Someone did surgery on their brains." "Surgery? Someone made them into weapons, Captain. These children have been turned into living killing machines." Rivers sat down hard. Children. Someone was using children as weapons. "There's more," Dr. Vale continued. "I found traces of drugs in their blood. Mind control drugs. These children don't even know what they're doing." Rivers put his head in his hands. This was worse than he thought. "Captain," Blake called from the bridge. "We're getting another distress signal." Rivers ran to the bridge. On the screen was a Villani ship captain. The Villani looked scared. "Human. Ship, please help us," the alien said. "Small attackers hit our colony. They're still here. They're hunting us." "How many survivors?" Rivers asked. "Maybe 50 families hiding in the caves, but the small ones keep looking for us." Rivers looked at Torres. "How long to get there?" 4 hours, Torres replied. "Too long," Rivers said. Then he had an idea. "Blake, send a message to all human ships in the area. Tell them to go to that colony now." "But sir, we don't have many ships nearby," Blake said. "Send it anyway, and tell them the attackers are children. Controlled children." While they traveled, Rivers got reports from other human captains. Captain Lee from the ship Earth's Pride sent a video message. His face looked shocked. "Rivers, you were right. We caught 3 of the attackers. They're kids. Just kids. But they fight like soldiers." Another captain, Johnson from New Hope, reported the same thing. "We had to use sleep gas to stop them," Johnson said. "They wouldn't surrender. They kept trying to kill the aliens even when they were hurt." Dr. Vale listened to all the reports, then she came to Rivers with a terrible idea. "Captain, I think I know what's happening," she said. "Tell me." "Someone is taking children from somewhere. They do surgery on their brains. They put control collars on them. They train them to kill aliens, then they send them out like weapons." Rivers felt anger building inside him. Who would do this? "I don't know. But whoever it is, they're smart. They know other alien species. Won't fight children. Most aliens are too kind. They see small beings and want to help them, not hurt them. But humans understand war differently. We know sometimes you have to fight even when it's hard, even when it hurts." Rivers nodded. Other alien species were peaceful. They couldn't make themselves fight children, even children with weapons. But humans knew about child soldiers. Humans had seen this before in their own history. "Dr. Vale, can you fix them? Can you remove the control?" She thought for a moment. "Maybe, if I can study one of them. But I need a live subject." Rivers made a decision. "We're going to catch one. We're going to save one of these children. And then we're going to find who's doing this." He looked at his crew. Good people who signed up to explore space, not fight a war. "I won't lie to you," Rivers said. "This is going to be hard. We're going to have to fight children. We're going to have to capture them without hurting them. And we're going to have to face whatever monster is controlling them." Torres stood up. "We're with you, Captain." Blake nodded. "All the way." Dr. Vale smiled. "Let's save some kids." Rivers looked at the stars ahead. Somewhere out there, more children were being turned into weapons. More innocent aliens were dying. But now humans knew the truth, and humans were going to stop it. No matter what it took. The Galactic Council meeting was chaos. Alien leaders from 50 worlds shouted at each other in the Great Hall. Captain Rivers sat with Admiral Kane watching the panic. "We cannot fight children," cried the Villani ambassador. Her blue skin was pale with fear. "It is against everything we believe." The Rothek delegate's crystal body flashed angry red colors. "But they are killing our people. Thousands are dead." "There must be another way," said the gentle Mokari leader. "We cannot hurt young ones even if they hurt us." Rivers watched alien after alien say the same thing. They all knew about the attacks. They all knew children were doing the killing, but none of them could fight back. Admiral Kane stood up. The room became quiet. "Leaders of the galaxy," Kane said in his strong voice, "humanity offers to help." The Velani ambassador looked confused. "How can you help? The attackers are children." Kane looked around the room. "Because humans understand something you don't. Sometimes, to save innocent people, you have to make hard choices." "What are you saying?" asked the Rothek delegate. "We're saying humans will hunt down these controlled children, we'll stop the attacks, and we'll try to save the children too." The room exploded with noise. Some aliens were angry. Some were scared. Some were hopeful. "You would fight children?" the Mokari leader asked, shocked. Rivers stood up next. "We would save children." "There's a difference." 3 days later, Rivers led a team of 5 human ships to the outer rim. Intelligence. Reports said the child attackers came from that area. Commander Fox joined Rivers on the Terra Nova. Fox was a soldier, not an explorer. She knew about fighting wars. "Captain," Fox said, "my team is ready, but I need to know, what are the rules?" Rivers looked at her. Fox was tough, but he saw worry in her eyes. "No killing," Rivers said. "We capture them alive. We use sleep gas, stun weapons, nets, whatever it takes. But we don't hurt them." Fox nodded. "My soldiers understand, but Captain, these children have been trained to kill. They won't surrender easy." "I know. Do your best." Dr. Vale had been working on special equipment, sleep gas that worked fast, stun weapons that wouldn't hurt small bodies, capture nets that were gentle but strong. "The hard part," she told Rivers, "is that they might not want to be saved. The mind control makes them think they're doing the right thing." Lieutenant Beck found the first clue. His ship, Earth's Shield, discovered a small base on a dead planet. "Captain," Beck reported over the radio, "I found something. Looks like a training camp." Rivers and Fox took a shuttle down to the planet. The base was underground, hidden in caves. Inside, they found horrible things. Rooms full of small beds. Training areas with targets shaped like different alien species, and worst of all, a medical room with surgery equipment. "This is where they make the children into weapons," Dr. Vale whispered. Fox found computer files. "Look at this. They call the children Keth units, like they're not even people." Rivers read the files. The children came from a planet called Keth Prime. They were taken young, maybe 6 or 7 years old. Then came years of surgery, drugs, and training. "How many?" Rivers asked. Fox checked more files. "Thousands, maybe tens of thousands." Rivers felt sick. Someone had stolen thousands of children and turned them into killers. "Sir," Torres called from another room, "you need to see this." They found Torres in a communication center. On the screen was a star map showing attack targets. "They're planning to hit 12 more colonies this week," Torres said. "All peaceful alien settlements." Rivers made a quick decision. "Fox, take half our ships. Protect those colonies. Beck, you're with me. We're going to find where these children come from." The next few days were the hardest of Rivers' life. Fox's team reached 3 colonies just as the attacks began. Her soldiers had to fight children with guns. Even with sleep gas and stun weapons, it was terrible. "They don't stop," Fox reported, after the first battle. "Even when they're hurt, they keep trying to kill the aliens. The mind control is too strong." But Fox's team saved over 2,000 aliens. And they captured 15 Keth children. Rivers and Beck found something worse. They discovered the main Keth facility on a hidden moon. "My God," Beck whispered as they watched from space. The facility was huge. Ships came and went, carrying small figures. It was a factory for making child soldiers. Dr. Vale studied the captured Keth children on Fox's ship. She made an important discovery. The control collars, she told Rivers over video call. They're not just for control, they're also for punishment. If a Keth child doesn't follow orders, the collar hurts them. Can you remove the collars? I'm trying, but it's dangerous. The collars are connected to their brains. One wrong move and… Rivers understood. The children's lives were at risk just trying to free them. Meanwhile, more human ships arrived in the area. Captain Lee, Captain Johnson, and others. Word was spreading through the human fleet. We're with you, Rivers, Lee said in a meeting of all the captains. These children need help. The aliens need protection. Humans will do what needs to be done. Rivers felt proud of his species. Other races couldn't fight children. But humans understood the terrible truth. Sometimes you had to fight to save both the victims and the attackers. Dr. Vale finally had success with one Keth child, a small girl named Nix. The collar is off, Dr. Vale reported. But she's confused. The drugs and mind control made her forget her real memories. Rivers went to see Nix. She was tiny, maybe 12 years old. She looked at him with scared eyes. Where am I? Nix asked in a small voice. You're safe, Rivers said gently. We're going to help you remember who you really are. Over the next day, Nix's memories came back. She remembered her home planet, her family. Her real name wasn't even Nix. It was Kira. They took me when I was little, she told Rivers, crying. They said my family was dead. They said I had to fight the bad aliens. There are no bad aliens, Kira, Rivers said. The people who took you, they lied to you. Kira looked shocked. But I killed people. I remember killing people. Rivers knelt down next to her. That wasn't you. That was the machine in your head. You're just a little girl who was hurt by bad people. Dr. Vale's success with Kira gave hope. If they could save one child, they could save others. But first, they had to stop the source. Rivers called all his captains together. We're going to attack the main facility, he said. We're going to free every child we can, and we're going to find who's behind this. Fox looked worried. Captain, there might be hundreds of Keth children there, all armed, all ready to fight. I know, Rivers said. But we're humans. We don't give up on children, even when those children are trying to kill us. The other captains nodded. They were scared, but they were ready. One more thing, Rivers said. When we find the people controlling these children, we're not going to be gentle. They turned children into weapons. They made them kill innocent people. What are you saying? Beck asked. Rivers' eyes were hard as steel. I'm saying some people don't deserve mercy, and humans know the difference. The human fleet moved toward the Keth facility. Behind them, they left saved alien colonies and rescued children. Ahead of them waited the hardest battle of their lives. A battle to save thousands of children who would try to kill them. But humans were ready. Because protecting the innocent was what humans did best, even when it hurt, even when it was impossible, especially then. The Keth facility looked like a metal city on the dark moon. Thousands of lights blinked in the darkness. Ships moved in and out like busy insects. Captain Rivers stood on the bridge of Terra Nova, watching the enemy base. Around him, 10 human ships waited for orders. How many children are in there? He asked Dr. Vale. She checked her scanners. At least 3,000. Maybe more. Rivers felt his heart break. 3,000 stolen children, turned into weapons. And adult guards? Asked Commander Fox. About 500. These are the real enemy, Dr. Vale said. The ones controlling the children. Major Stone joined them on the bridge. Stone was new to Rivers' team, but he was an expert at rescue missions. Captain, I've studied the facility, Stone said. There are 3 levels. Top level is training areas. Middle level is living quarters for the children. Bottom level is the control center and medical labs. What's the plan? Rivers asked. Stone pointed to the screen. We hit all 3 levels at once. My team goes to the control center to shut down the collar network. Fox's team secures the training areas. Beck's team gets the children to safety. Rivers nodded. And if the children attack us? Sleep gas first, stun weapons second. But no one gets hurt if we can help it, Stone said. Dr. Vale had been working with little Kira for 3 days. The rescued girl was getting better, remembering more about her real life. Dr. Vale, Kira said as they prepared for the attack. The other children they won't understand. The collars make them think you're enemies. We know, sweetie. That's why we have to turn off the collars first. Kira looked worried. The masters won't let you. They have big weapons. And they have the punishment room. What's the punishment room? Dr. Vale asked gently. Kira started crying. Where they hurt children who don't obey. It makes the collar send pain into our heads. Dr. Vale felt angry. These masters were monsters. The human fleet moved closer to the facility. Rivers hoped they could do this quietly, but alarms started screaming. They know we're here, Blake reported. Suddenly, small ships poured out of the facility. Keth attack ships piloted by children. All ships remember the rules, Rivers announced. Disable only. These are kids flying those ships. The space battle was horrible. Human ships used special weapons that shut down engines without exploding ships. But the Keth children fought with no fear of death. Captain, Torres called. 3 Keth ships are trying to ram us. Rivers watched small ships flying, straight at human vessels. The children inside would rather die than fail their mission. Use the sleep gas missiles, Rivers ordered. Knock out the pilots before they hit us. It worked. Gas filled the Keth ships. The children fell asleep at their controls. Human ships caught the drifting vessels with tractor beams. While the space battle continued, Major Stone's team reached the facility in shuttlecraft. They landed inside the base through a cargo door. Immediately, adult guards started shooting at them. These weren't children. These were the real enemy. Stone's soldiers fought back with full force. The guards wore strange armor and had weapons Stone had never seen before. What are these things? Sergeant Wells asked, diving behind cover. Stone looked at a dead guard. The face wasn't human or any alien species he knew. Dr. Vale, are you seeing this? He called on his radio. Dr. Vale studied the images Stone sent. Those aren't any known species. Someone created them. Like they created the Keth weapons. Stone's team fought their way deeper into the facility. The guards were tough, but humans were tougher. Meanwhile, Commander Fox's team reached the training levels. What they found made them sick. Hundreds of Keth children, all with weapons, all attacking the human soldiers. Sleep gas now, Fox ordered. Her soldiers fired gas canisters. Most children fell asleep quickly, but some had masks and kept fighting. Fox watched a tiny Keth child, maybe 8 years old, trying to shoot her with a rifle bigger than the child was. I'm sorry, little one, Fox whispered. She used her stun weapon. The child fell down, unconscious, but alive. Lieutenant Beck's team had the hardest job. They had to get sleeping children out of the facility while battles raged around them. There are too many, Beck reported. We need more ships. Help is coming, Rivers replied. 3 more. Human ships arrived. Captain Lee and Captain Johnson brought medical teams and transport ships. Let's get these kids home, Lee said. But they didn't know where home was. The Keth children came from many different worlds. The masters had stolen them from across the galaxy. Down in the control center, Major Stone found something amazing and terrible. The facility wasn't just for making child soldiers. It was a research center. Captain Rivers, Stone called on the radio. You need to see this. I'm sending you video. Rivers watched Stone's camera feed. The control center was huge, filled with computers and strange machines, but the worst part was the screens showing other facilities. There are more, Stone said. Lots more. This is just one base of many. Rivers felt cold. How many? At least 20 facilities like this one. Maybe more. Dr. Vale found something else in the computer files. Captain, I know who's behind this. They call themselves the Hegemon. What are they? An old race. Very advanced. They think they're better than everyone else. They want to rule the galaxy, but they don't want to fight directly. So they use children as weapons. Yes, they steal children, modify them, and send them to kill other species. When the galaxy is weak enough, the hegemon will take over. Rivers felt rage building inside him. The hegemon were cowards who hurt children to win wars. Stone reached the main control room. Inside, he found 3 hegemon leaders. They were tall and thin with pale skin and cold eyes. They looked at Stone like he was an insect. "Human," one of them said in perfect English. "You are too late. Our plan is already working." "Your plan is over," Stone replied. The hegemon leader laughed. "We have already sent children to attack 50 more colonies. By tomorrow, thousands more aliens will be dead." Stone looked at the control panels. Hundreds of lights showed active collar signals. "Shut it down," Stone ordered. "Never. The children belong to us now. They will kill for us until they die." Stone had heard enough. He shot all 3 hegemon leaders with his stun weapon. Then he called Dr. Vale. "Doctor, I need you down here. We have to shut off all the collars." Dr. Vale worked quickly on the hegemon computers. The technology was advanced, but she was smart. "Got it," she announced. "Collar network is shutting down." Across the facility, thousands of collar lights went dark. In the medical bay of Terra Nova, little Kira suddenly smiled. "They're free," she whispered. "I can feel it. All the children are free." All over the galaxy, Keith children stopped fighting. Their minds cleared for the first time in years. Many started crying as their real memories came back. On the colonies, under attack, human soldiers found something amazing. The Keth children put down their weapons and asked for help. "What's happening to us?" a small Keth boy asked Captain Johnson. "Where are we? Where are our families?" Rivers felt tears in his eyes. Thousands of children were finally free. But the job wasn't finished. "All ships, this is Captain Rivers. We've broken the collar network. Now we save every child we can find." The rescue operation began. Human ships spread across the galaxy, finding Keth children and bringing them to safety. Dr. Vale worked day and night, helping children remember their real names and homes. Major Stone destroyed the hegemon facility completely. Nothing would ever be built there again. But Rivers knew this was just the beginning. 20 more facilities were out there. The hegemon weren't finished, and somewhere in space, the real leaders of the hegemon were planning revenge. The children were free. But the war wasn't over. Humans had won this battle. Now they had to win the war. For the children, for the innocent aliens, for everyone who couldn't protect themselves. Because that's what humans did. They protected people who needed help, even when it was hard, even when it hurt, especially then. 6 months after the first Keth facility was destroyed, Captain Rivers stood in a place he never thought he would see. A school. But this wasn't just any school. This was Hope Station, built by humans in the Outer Rim. Here, rescued Keth children learned to be children again. "Captain Rivers," a small voice called. Rivers turned and smiled. Little Kira ran toward him, but she looked different now. Her eyes were bright and happy. She wore normal clothes instead of battle armor. "Hello, Kira," Rivers said, kneeling down to her level. "How are you feeling?" "Much better," she said with a big smile. "Specialist Reed is teaching us how to paint. Want to see my picture?" Rivers followed Kira to the art room. On the wall hung hundreds of paintings made by Keth children. Most showed happy families, bright flowers, and peaceful planets. Specialist Reed waved at Rivers. Reed was a therapist who worked with traumatized children. She had been helping the rescued Keth for months. "The children are healing faster than we hoped," Reed told Rivers. Once their real memories came back, most of them wanted to forget the bad times. "How many have we saved so far?" Rivers asked. "Almost 8,000, and more every week." It had been a hard 6 months. After destroying the first facility, human ships hunted down the other hegemon bases. They found children on 19 different hidden stations. Some rescues were easy. The children surrendered as soon as their collars stopped working. Other rescues were battles. Some hegemon guards fought to the death rather than surrender their child soldiers. But humans never gave up. Captain Lee, Captain Johnson, Commander Fox, Major Stone, and dozens of other human officers led mission after mission. Dr. Vale became the galaxy's expert on removing hegemon mind control. She saved thousands of children with her medical skills. Dr. Vale, Rivers called as he walked through Hope Station's medical center. How's our special patient? Dr. Vale looked up from her work. Come see for yourself. In a special room sat a hegemon prisoner. Not one of the guards, but a real hegemon leader. His name was Vex, and he was over 300 years old. Human, Vex said when he saw Rivers. His voice was cold and angry. You have delayed our plans, but you cannot stop us. Your plans are finished, Rivers replied. We destroyed all your facilities. We freed all your child soldiers. Vex laughed, but it sounded mean. You found 20 facilities. We have 50 more. Rivers felt his blood turn cold. 50 more? You're lying. Am I? Right now our new children are being sent to attack the Centauri colonies. They will kill 10,000 aliens before your ships can reach them. Rivers ran to the communication center. He called Admiral Kane immediately. Admiral, we need ships at Centauri. Now. Already on it, Kane replied. We got warning from our scouts. Captain Martinez and her fleet are intercepting the attackers. How many children? About 200. All very young, maybe 7 or 8 years old. Rivers closed his eyes. The hegemon were using even smaller children now. 3 hours later, Captain Martinez reported success. All children captured safely, she said. No casualties on either side, but Rivers, these kids they were so little. Dr. Vale examined the new children. They were the youngest Keth soldiers ever found. The hegemon are getting desperate, she told Rivers. They're taking children at younger ages. It's easier to control their minds. Rivers felt sick, but he also felt determined. Then we stopped them faster. Over the next 3 months, humans launched the biggest rescue operation in galactic history. Every human ship, every human soldier, every human doctor joined the mission. They called it Operation Free Children. Lieutenant Beck, now promoted to captain, found 12 more hegemon facilities. Commander Fox, also promoted to captain, led rescue missions that saved 3,000 more children. Major Stone became Colonel Stone and trained special teams for fighting hegemon guards, but the most important work happened at places like Hope Station. Specialist Reed and her team helped children remember their real families. Many Keth children had been taken so young they couldn't remember their home planets. We used genetic tests to find their families, Reed explained to a group of visiting alien ambassadors. Most families thought their children were dead. The reunions were beautiful. Rivers watched hundreds of families meet their stolen children for the first time in years. But some children had no families left. The hegemon had destroyed their home planets or killed their families. These children need new homes, Rivers told the Galactic Council. Many alien species volunteered to adopt Keth orphans. The gentle Mokari were especially good parents. Their patience helped traumatized children heal. The war against the hegemon lasted 2 years. In the end, humans found and destroyed 67 facilities. They rescued over 12,000 Keth children, but the most important victory wasn't military. Little Kira, now 9 years old, stood before the Galactic Council. She spoke for all the rescued children. The humans saved us, she said in her clear voice. Not just from the masters, but from becoming monsters. They fought us when they had to. They healed us when they could. They never gave up on us. The alien leaders listened carefully. We want to thank all humans, Kira continued, and we want to help other children if this ever happens again. Rivers watched from the audience feeling proud. After the speech, the Galactic Council voted. They asked humans to create a new organization, the Galactic Child Protection Force. You understand what others cannot, the Villani ambassador said. You know how to save children from being used as weapons. Admiral Kane accepted the responsibility. Humans will protect the children of the galaxy, we promise. 5 years later, Rivers visited Hope Station again. It had grown into a city. Thousands of former Keth children lived there, but now they were students, artists, and young adults. Many worked for the Child Protection Force, helping rescue other children in danger. Kira, now 14, was one of the best junior counselors. Captain Rivers, she called, running up to him. She was taller now, but still had the same bright smile. Hello, Kira. How's school? Wonderful. I'm learning to be a doctor like Dr. Vale. I want to help heal children's minds. Rivers smiled. That's perfect. They walked together through the station. Former Keth children played in parks, studied in schools, and worked in shops. They looked like normal, happy kids. Captain, Kira said quietly, sometimes I have nightmares about the old days, about the things I did when the masters controlled me. Rivers stopped walking. Do you want to talk about it? I remember killing people, innocent people. How do I live with that? Rivers knelt down to look at her. Kira, that wasn't you. That was the machine in your head. You were just a little girl who was hurt by evil people. But I still remember. Good, Rivers said. Remember, so you can help other children forget. Remember, so you can stop it from happening again. Kira nodded. That's why I want to be a doctor, to help. And that's why humans will always protect children like you. As they continued walking, Rivers thought about the future. The hegemon were gone, but other threats would come. Other people might try to hurt children, but humans would be ready. They had learned something important during the Keth crisis. Sometimes protecting the innocent meant fighting them. Sometimes saving children meant hurting the people who controlled them. Sometimes doing the right thing was the hardest thing in the galaxy. Other alien species were too gentle to make these hard choices, but humans understood. Humans knew that true strength wasn't about having the biggest weapons or the fastest ships. True strength was about protecting those who couldn't protect themselves, even when it hurt, even when it was impossible. Especially, then Rivers looked at Kira, now laughing with her friends. A little girl who had been turned into a weapon, then saved by people who refused to give up on her. That was humanity's greatest victory. Not defeating the hegemon. Not destroying their facilities, giving children back their childhood, giving them hope, giving them a future, and promising that humans would always stand guard, protecting the innocent children of the galaxy. Forever.